Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. You can read a little bit from the Ramayana, and we're in chapter 6. This is a condensed version, and it follows the activities nicely. It's not in-depth philosophical. It's like could be easily made into a movie or a play. It's a dramatic presentation in writing. But we get the idea of what's going on for the incarnation of Lord Ramachandra, Sita Ram. Couple more mantras. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Chaitanya. We see in the six-armed form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the danda and the water pot for the sannyasi, and Krishna playing the flute. And we also see the bow and the arrow, which is Ramachandra. So the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra are very much a part of the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Lord's most recent appearance, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And also, he's giving the mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. So Rama, who is Rama? Well, different devotees relate differently to the holy name, Rama. But certainly Lord Ramachandra. So this is, sorry about the hat, a funny look here, but I tried to give myself a haircut. And, I gotta wait a little while before I scare myself and other people. So, this is chapter 6. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. And the title of the chapter is Sita. What has happened so far is, briefly, Vishwamrita has taken Ramachandra and his brother Lakshman on an adventure. They're young, they're just teenagers. Ram is not even 16 yet, but he's from a Kshatriya family, so he's a young prince, a young warrior. And they have managed to rid the forest, sacred forest, of some demons who were disturbing the sages there. So they managed to do that. And now Vishwamrita, powerful sage, is taking Ram and Lakshman to the kingdom of Videha, the capital city of Mithila, and Janaka, the illustrious philosopher king, kind of like a Solomon type king, wisdom philosopher king, intends to perform a great sacrifice. All of us are going there. It would be good if you and the prince, your brother, accompany us. It's proper that the prince of Ayodhya should see the marvelous bow in the court of Janaka. So we see this from time to time when they perform these sacrifices. There's a giant bow that's there. Kamsa had one, and it's described in other sacrifices. They have a giant bow, like for a bow and an arrow, a giant bow. So the marvelous bow in the court of Janaka. So Lakshman went and Rama went with Vishwamrita to Janaka's city. I don't want to spoil the story, but Sita is the daughter of King Janaka. Okay. Janaka, king of Mithila, was an ideal ruler. He was a much revered friend of Dasarath, Lord Ram's father, who, when he planned his yagna for progeny, sent not mere messengers but ministers to Mithila to invite King Janaka. So the two fathers, the father of Sita and the father of Ram, are close friends. Janaka was not only a brave king, but was as well versed in the Shastras and the Vedas as any rishi, and was the beloved pupil of Yagnavalkya, whose exposition of Brahmana to him is the substance of the Briharanyaka Upanishad. So the conversation is captured in this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna cites Janaka as an illustrious example of the karma yogi. Janaka was thus worthy to be the father of Sita, who was to be the wife of Vishnu, come down on earth in human form. Desirous of performing a yagna, Janaka at once plowed the chosen site. As usual, this was done by his own hand. As the field was being cleared and leveled, Janaka saw among shrubs a baby, divinely beautiful. Janaka was childless and accepted the infant as the goddess Earth's gift to him. So this is how Sita appears, not ordinary appearances in birth. Taking the child in his arms, he went to his beloved wife and said, "Here is treasure for us. I have found this child on the yagna site, and we shall make it our own." And she joyfully consented. The beauty of the goddess Earth, mortal eyes cannot see in its fullness. The beauty of the goddess Earth, mortal eyes cannot see in its fullness, but we get glimpses of it as we gaze with grateful hearts on the emerald green or golden ripeness of springtime or autumn fields, or with awe and adoration on the glories of mountain, valley, rivers, and oceans. This loveliness was Sita in its entirety. It's reminiscent of the verse of the chapter in Bhagavad Gita, Opulence of the Absolute, where Krishna says, "Behold my splendor. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the fishes. I'm the shark of, like that. Bodies of water. I'm the ocean." So it's reminiscent of the beauty of Sita. This loveliness was Sita in its entirety. Kamban would have it that Sita's beauty threw into the shade Lakshmi herself, who came up with nectar as the ocean of milk was being churned. The guy writes a little flat, it's kind of like. So, loveliness was Sita in its entirety. Kamban would have it that Sita's beauty threw into the shade Lakshmi herself, who came up with nectar as the ocean of milk was being churned. She outshone Lakshmi Devi herself. This child of divine beauty was brought up by King Janaka and his dear queen. When Sita reached the age of marriage, Janaka was sad that he would have to part with her. Though he tried hard, he was for long unable to choose a prince worthy of Sita. Many kings came to Mithila seeking Sita's hand, but in Janaka's view, none of them was good enough. The king anxiously thought over the matter and came to a decision. Long ago, pleased with a yagna performed by Janaka, Varuna, the demigod of the water, presented to him Rudra's bow and 2 quivers. That was an ancient heavenly bow which no ordinary man could even move. We see this with Kamsa also. It's not an ordinary bow. At that time, Krishna went and broke it in half. So now Janaka has a bow, extraordinary. This was kept by him as an honored heirloom, since only a very exceptional man could be considered worthy of Sita. Janaka issued this proclamation. Sita, my daughter, will be given in marriage to the prince who can lift, bend, and string the bow of Shiva, which Varuna gave me, and to none other. Many princes who had heard of Sita's beauty went to Mithila, only to return disappointed. None could fulfill the condition. Led by Vishwamitra, the rishis from Siddha Ashram were proceeding to Mithila with bullock carts transporting their luggage. The animals and the birds in the ashram set out to follow Vishwamitra, but he gently bade them to stay behind. Krishna. The animals and the birds in the ashram tried to follow Vishwamitra, but he gently bade them stay. Krishna. It was already quite an entourage with all the rishis and sages with bullock carts and luggage and tents and whatever it is they had for the journey. And then all the birds and animals wanted to go too. It was evening when they reached the river Sona. There they rested for the night. Vishwamitra recounting to Ram and Lakshman the history of the place. So when you go on pilgrimage, you visit these different places, and then you get the history of the place. Getting up in the morning, they continued their journey and crossed another river, not very deep, and by noon they were at the Ganga. So we're not going to hear what the history of the place was, but that's what you do when you go to a holy place. You hear the history of it. They bathed in the holy river, and the rishis made lustrations to their forebears. They improvised an ashram there, performed their pujas, and cooked their food. Meal over, they sat around Vishwamitra, who, at the request of the 2 princes, told the story of the Ganga, Himavan, king of the mountains, and his spouse, Menaka. They had 2 daughters, of whom Ganga was the elder. It's interesting. Vishwamitra became attracted later to Menaka. Anyway, had become attracted to Menaka at one point. Himavan sent her to the land of the Devas in response to their request, and she dwelt with them. Uma, the younger, won the favor of Shiva and became his spouse. So that's another name of Parvati, is Uma. And Menaka went to the Devas and dwelt with them. And then the Devas later on sent her to disturb Vishwamitra. Right? Yeah, Menaka. Okay. Try and keep it all straight is like Sagara, a former king of Ayodhya, had no son for a long time. Ayodhya is now Dasarath, the father of Ram, is now the king of Ayodhya, but formerly there was a king named Sagara who was the king of Ayodhya before Dasarath, and had no son for a long time. With his two wives, Keshini and Sumati, he went to Himalaya and performed tapas. Sage Brigu, pleased with the king, blessed him and said, "You will get a number of children and will acquire undying fame. One of your wives will give birth to an only son, and through him your lineage will be continued. The other queen will bear 60,000 strong-armed sons." Sagara's wives bowed low before the sage and asked which of them would get an only son and which the 60,000 children. Sage Brigu asked each of them their own desire. Keshini said she would be satisfied with one son who would continue the line. Sumati chose the other alternative. "Be it so," said the sage. Satisfied, the king and his wives took leave of the sage and returned to Ayodhya. In course of time, Asamanjas was born to Keshini. Sumati gave birth to a vociferous mass, which divided out into 60,000 babies. Ay, ay, ay. This army of children was taken care of by many nurses. You would think so. Years rolled by, and while the 60,000 grew into strong, handsome princes, Asamanjas turned out to be a cruel lunatic. He indulged in the pastime of throwing little children into the river and laughing merrily as they struggled and died. Naturally, people hated this maniac and banished him from the country. To the great relief of all, Asamanja's son, Amsuman, was the opposite of his father, was a brave, virtuous, and amiable prince. King Sagara launched a great horse sacrifice, and Prince Amsuman was in charge of the sacrificial horse. But Indra, in the guise of Rakshasa, managed to carry off the animal. The Devas regarded yagnas by mortals as a challenge to their superiority and lost no opportunity of throwing obstacles in their way. If, however, all obstruction was overcome and the yagna was completed, they accepted offerings made to them, and then he who performed the yagna got a reward. The king was greatly upset when he heard that the sacrificial horse was stolen. He sent out the 60,000 sons of Sumati to go in search of the animal all over the earth and to spare no pains to retrieve it. The loss of the horse, he impressed on them, not only means obstruction to the yaga, it casts sin and ignominy on any concerned. You should therefore recover the horse, whatever it may be, wherever it may be kept hidden. Eagerly the sons of Sagara proceeded to search the entire earth, but the horse was nowhere to be found. They even started digging the earth as for buried treasure, and in their anxiety respected neither place nor person, and only succeeded in earning the hatred of all they met. The horse was not to be found. And then they reported their failure to the king. He bade them ransack the netherworld. That's like the lower planets. The princes did as they were told, and in the Patala they saw the horse grazing in a corner of an ashram, it's a lower planet, not far from the place where sage Kapila, who was Vishnu, sat in meditation. The princes at once jumped to the conclusion that they had not only found the stolen horse, but the thief also, and they rushed on Kapila shouting, "Here is the thief pretending to be a yogi." Kapila, thus disturbed, opened his eyes, and the 60,000 princes were reduced to a heap of ashes. Indra, the real thief, had artificially left the horse here with this very intent. Wow. That's like Muchikunda. Krishna was being attached by a very low-class, animalistic type person with his army, and he just didn't even want to fight with him. He was an untouchable. He wasn't even a human in human culture. He was just like an animal, really, in many ways. So he didn't want to fight with him, because when Kshatriyas fight, they fight according to rules, and it's very sophisticated encounter. But if you're being attacked by like something that's like an animal, and they don't even want to engage in that. So what he did was he ran away, and Muchikunda followed him. And it wasn't Muchikunda, it was Kalyavana. Muchikunda was the one sleeping in the cave. Okay, he'd been fighting for thousands of years as a service for the demigods, fighting the demons. And he asked for the benediction that he was really tired. He could just take rest. So he was given the benediction that he could sleep as long as he wanted to. But if he was awakened untimely, before he wanted to be awake, he would have the power to burn to ashes whoever woke him up untimely. So we're seeing here a similar kind of mystic power, where so Krishna led Kalyavana to the cave where Muchikunda was resting, and Kalyavana thought it was Krishna in the cave, hiding, lying down, and he kicked him. And he woke Muchikunda up, and the first thing Muchikunda saw was Kalyavana, and poof, your ashes. So a similar kind of activity here. The princes jumped to the conclusion that they'd found the horse and the thief, just like Kalyavana thought he'd found Krishna. And they rushed on Kapila shouting, "Here's the thief pretending to be a yogi." Kapila, there's 60,000 of them. Kapila, disturbed, opened his eyes, and they were reduced to a heap of ashes. So Indra was the real thief, and he had left the horse there, hoping that this would happen. This was his intent. So there go the 60,000 princes. So the only one left is the grandson, Anusman, because his father was a horrible monster who used to throw babies into the river and laugh heartily when he watched them struggle and drown. Thought that was great fun. Okay, Hare Krishna. But by experiencing a higher taste, these lower tastes have no more appeal. Oh, Krishna. So chapter 7 is Bhagirata and the story of Ganga. And that'll be next time. Shri Ramayana, Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.